Hey YouTube, welcome to part 2 of the Chris Craft 251, 1980 Chris Craft 251 restoration. It's been a long winter, but it's spring here in Texas. We moved the boat, the cover's off, got a lot of things done over the winter. So we're going to try to do a little video here of what we've done, where we are, and what we're gonna do. So let me take you around and show you a few things. So over the winter, let's go this way, and you can see, make sure, right, there you go, yep. As you can see, we pulled the motor out. Motor and transmission are out. We put in new supports for the deck hatches, new wood. This piece of wood and all this will get pulled out and replaced as well. We're going to do that at the point that we go to drop the new motor in. We scrubbed, literally used Dawn cleaning to scrub the bilge of all the grease and whatever's been in there for, build up over 40 years. So we did that. We also took the boat, you probably didn't see it in the last video, we took the boat to a car wash that was big enough for semis and power washed it. So this wood over there, that I'm planning on replacing that with mahogany. All this wood we're planning on replacing with mahogany, but you can almost see here where we power washed the original wood and the gray in it, how it kind of is trying to come back. But regardless, we're gonna replace that because this all is worn out. We're going to replace that. Power washed some of the teak wood that's on there, the teak steps. We're going to replace all that. The wood down at the bottom, again, we power washed it. We're going to try polyurethaning it. That may also be teak wood. It doesn't look like the grain of mahogany. Got some discovered. Let me take you in the cabin and show you something here, kind of interesting. Morning. So, this is where your wiring would be, and on the 251s, let me put this down, hang on a second. So on the 251s, or at least the 1980, there would normally be a power panel here. And part of that power panel would have your battery chargers or charger in it, including trying to figure out, this is interesting, we discovered. Let me pull this out of the way. This is interesting. So this is my 110 shore power. Again, all things that were done by the previous owner. We discovered this. I discovered things like this manually wired in speaker wire, manually wired in mess. There is a bunch of wires that we pulled out of the bilge. In fact, you can see over there that extension cord that they ran for, I guess the idea was they were gonna, you could open the hatch and plug it in, but whoever owned this boat before me or before them, just, yeah. If you go up front here, there's the bilge pump and the switch, interestingly, not mounted, was just laying down in the front there. So I got new bilge pumps and switches. We're going to replace all that. This floor in here, the wood around here, we've got new wood to go in there to support the floor. So we're going to fix that. This is where, back up here so you can see, this is where the refrigerator would go, and I think we're going to put a fridge back in there. We took the door off, but a lot of this wood that's in here, we're going to replace all this, try to make it, you know, something that we can access easily if we need to. My existing water pump and lines, this is all stuff that we have to fix. For those of you that didn't see, the bathroom was supposed to have an additional shelf here, which was part of a little mini closet. That all got pulled out. Everything in this boat just got pulled out. So this entire, what's supposed to be the bathroom, is completely gutted. We got to fix that. We're working on replacing existing doors with mahogany. I had somebody come and measure for mahogany trim all around the windows. We want to do mahogany trim around the windows, and then try to see what we're going to do about some kind of texture to cover this all up. But going back out here, let's take a look. Again, we power washed the top side, the sides. Really turned out beautiful. I think with some polish, you know, wax and polish, it could end up looking really good. We won't have to do as much to it in that regard as I thought we would. So the blue stripe, this vinyl, is going to need to be replaced. I believe we're going to go ahead and take this 251 off. I've seen some of these Catalinas where they didn't have this on the side, and I think it just looks neater and cleaner. So I think we're gonna remove this. You can also see, though, I do have wear on the gel coat, so we may end up having to paint. We're gonna just kind of keep an eye on that. So again, that's over the winter. This is what we have done. We've cleaned the boat, we've power washed it, gotten more into some of her wiring issues that have to be taken care of, but all things that we're going to fix and try to get her done this year. So as we go down here, one of the big things that we got done, let's take a look at this. So hopefully you can see it. So this is my protective barrier, epoxy primer, epoxy barrier primer, depends on what wording you want to use. So the bottom had ablative paint on it. It had ablative paint on it. And if you know about ablative paint, if the boat's going to be in salt water, that's a great thing, because the ablative paint comes off in layers, and this way you don't get paint buildup on the bottom of the boat. So the thing about this boat is she's going to be in fresh water, more than likely trailered quite a bit, as opposed to being moored or docked, which may eventually happen, but at this point, that's what we're looking at. So what we did is we power washed the bottom. It had all this black ablative bottom paint on it, and we power washed it, but then honestly I had to hand scrub the bottom of the boat with this and gloves, And so we also took off the side boards. They're over there, and then we're going to put tubes up on here. And so the bottom of the boat is now ready for touch-up primer epoxy barrier coat. And then we've got the bottom paint. We bought that and are ready to put that on. And so we also have on the way this blue stripe where you can see the damage here. We've got the blue paint to replace, or repaint, I'm sorry, the blue stripe. So over the winter, that's what we've done. We have power washed, we've cleaned, we've removed things that either shouldn't have been there and needed to be straightened out and neatened. Gone through and seen what all else we have to do to it. But one of the big things between power washing and cleaning, getting the engine pulled out. We have an engine. In fact, I'm going to pick up the engine today. Got a new, well, remanufactured motor for her. I'm going to go pick that up today. So over the winter, we pulled the engine out, cleaned the bilge, went through the boat, got the bottom ablative black paint off, which I'm glad we did, because when you start looking at this, it's kind of like, did they just paint over these wear spots? Look at this. You know, did they just paint over these wear spots with ablative paint and never put new epoxy barrier, you know, back on the boat again? Or did it, you know, this was worn underneath the barrier paint. So glad we took that off, and that's kind of what we're doing with this boat. Is I'm not assuming anything is okay. I'm taking things off to inspect. One of the nice things about having scrubbed this myself was that you do get a feel for wherever repairs were done, for if there's any issues or damage, because I didn't want to just go and throw paint on here and not be aware of what was going on with the hull. But now I know every square inch of the bottom of the boat and any issues that she has. And so that's you know, your hull's the most important part of the boat. You got to know what's going on with it. Cracks, leaks, issues, blisters. So we've gone through it, and that's what we're going to do. And like I said, this, you can see how this is all sun cracked. So this either has to be, the right way to do it is to pull this off and either put new tape on or paint this, and then we're going to take this off. And so our next few projects, number one is going to be bottom paint. For that, we're going to repaint the blue. We're going to polish. We're going to at least try this year to just polish the hull. I want to see if we can get this off. I don't know that we can really replace this as opposed to trying to repaint this. But right now the way I'm leaning is to take this off. I got some Goo Gone. I've heard Goo Gone and using a hair dryer is probably the best way to get these kind of decals off. If you think there's another way to do it, message me and let me know. Be glad to hear your suggestions there. So once we get the bottom and the blue done, the next step really probably is going to be, we're going to do some work on the stringers. That's the other thing. We're going to do some work on the stringers, get them taken care of. There's a few spots that need attention, and we'll get the stringers done. And honestly, at that point, once we've got the stringers done and I get the new bilge pumps put in, some wiring done, the next step will be to drop the motor in. We're going to get the motor going on the ground first, and then we'll drop it in. And once the motor's in, we also got to work on the stuffing boxes. Got to reseal the stuffing boxes. And once we do all that, it may be time to drop her in the water and test her out. So that's part 2 of where we are. I'll do some other videos. In fact, I'll do a video once we got the bottom painted so you can see how it turned out. We got the blue stripe done. We'll do a video of that so you can see how that turned out. Appreciate you watching. Stay tuned for what's going on, the complete restoration of this 1980 Chris Craft 251. And thanks for tuning in. See you next time, YouTube. Bye-bye.